When you see a fighter jet cutting through the clouds, you might spot large, sleek pods hanging beneath its wings or fuselage. They look like missiles or bombs, but they're not weapons at all. They're drop tanks, detachable fuel tanks that have quietly played a massive role in aviation history. These tanks may not make headlines, but without them, many historic missions, dogfights, and long-range operations would have been impossible. So what are drop tanks, how do they work, and why do pilots sometimes release them mid-flight? Let's dive into the story of these unsung heroes of the sky, right here on the History of Things. A drop tank, also known as an external fuel tank, is exactly what it sounds like, an extra fuel reservoir that an aircraft can carry outside its main body. Mounted under the wings or along the fuselage, these tanks give planes the ability to fly farther than their built-in fuel capacity would allow. Once the fuel inside is used up, the pilot can drop the tank to reduce weight, minimize drag, or prepare for combat maneuvers. It's like having a detachable gas tank that can be discarded the moment it's no longer needed, an elegant mix of practicality and strategy. The concept might seem simple today, but back in the early 20th century, it was revolutionary. During World War II, limited fuel capacity was one of aviation's biggest challenges. Fighter planes could only fly short distances, which made escorting bombers over long missions nearly impossible. Bombers could reach deep into enemy territory, but the fighters protecting them had to turn back halfway due to low fuel, leaving them exposed to enemy fire. The solution came in the form of the drop tank, a lightweight, aerodynamic container filled with fuel that could be attached beneath a plane's wings. One of the aircraft that made the best use of this innovation was the P-51 Mustang. Originally, the Mustang had a range of about 750 miles, not nearly enough for transcontinental missions. But when equipped with drop tanks, that range more than doubled, up to 1,600 miles. Suddenly, Allied fighters could escort bombers all the way to Germany and back, dramatically improving survival rates and turning the tide in the air war over Europe. The drop tank wasn't just a catchy name, it was literal. Once empty, the tanks were released mid-flight to make the plane lighter and more agile, especially when entering combat. Most early drop tanks were disposable, built cheaply from metal, paper, or even plastic. They weren't meant to last, they were meant to get the job done once. In wartime, efficiency and performance mattered more than cost. These tanks were expendable tools that gave pilots the edge they needed. By the 1950s, jet aircraft adopted more advanced versions, streamlined, aerodynamic tanks that could hold more fuel and create less drag. Engineers even designed reusable versions that could be detached and reattached between missions. Drop tanks didn't just extend range, they transformed strategy. With external fuel tanks, aircraft could cross oceans, deserts, or mountains without refueling stops. They allowed surprise attacks, long patrols, and ferry flights over vast distances. A fighter could launch from one continent, fight, and return home without ever landing elsewhere. It was a game changer for military flexibility. Of course, there were trade-offs. Carrying drop tanks increased an aircraft's radar visibility, added drag, and slightly altered its balance and maneuverability. But the advantages far outweighed the drawbacks. In modern aviation, even with aerial refueling, where planes can refuel midair, drop tanks are still widely used. They remain essential for missions where refueling support isn't available or practical. Today, if you look closely at aircraft like the F-15 Eagle, F-16 Fighting Falcon, or F/A-18 Hornet, you'll often see these external tanks mounted under the wings. In peacetime, they're a convenient way for pilots to extend training flights. In wartime, they're critical tools for long-range strikes and patrols. Some modern tanks even serve secondary purposes, like carrying sensors or acting as smart pods for additional equipment. In the end, drop tanks represent more than just extra fuel, they symbolize freedom of movement and endurance. They turn short-range fighters into long-range guardians and help define air power as we know it. From the skies over World War II Europe to the supersonic jets patrolling today's airspace, these humble detachable tanks have remained quietly vital. So next time you see a fighter jet streaking across the sky with cylindrical pods hanging from its wings, remember, those aren't bombs. They're lifelines of flight, the clever invention that allowed humanity to stretch its wings a little farther and fly a little longer.